Like, I'm listening to you talk about it, and I'm like, God damn it, I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. One loss ever to John Jones, and it was a close fight. It wasn't like John Jones came out and beasted him or came out and made him look like a fool. That was a close fight.
It was a close fight. John Jones definitely won it. John Jones definitely won the fight, and I think going to the scorecards, there was no question as to who was going to win the fight. But that was only because I gave not every round, but most rounds to John Jones. But the rounds were still close. You can win a round by a 10-9 round, and it still be a close round. So it was competitive. The fight was certainly competitive. Of course, John Jones was the first man to ever take Daniel Cormier down, and that was a big what's the word I'm looking for? Ribbon in his bow for John Jones, and gave him a lot of confidence.
Notch in his belt, a much less girly way to put it.
There you go, a notch in his belt. That's what I was looking for. That's why you're around, Lewis. That was a good notch in his belt, and he didn't do it once. He did it several times throughout the fight. So DC obviously wants that rematch. You're right. I would love to see John Jones versus Anthony Johnson, but I can't help but see John Jones going in with those beautiful, sharp, fast takedowns that he used to use at the start of his career. I mean, look at John Jones versus Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen was a great grappler and a wrestler in his own right. And Jones just took him down in a heartbeat against the fence. Boom, put him on his back. Took DC down, remember, and just elbowed the hell out of Chael Sonnen in no time at all. And I can't help but think that Jones would do that to Rumble as well.
He probably would, but here's the thing, right? We've already seen Jones versus Cormier. I don't get super excited about watching that again. All things considered, if they came in as this, they come into that fight, I'm picking John Jones against Cormier again. I'm not super excited. I'm not a huge fan of John Jones. I kind of want to see him lose. So Anthony Johnson, in my opinion, has the style to get it done for the same reason that I say, he can beat Cormier because of that any given Sunday factor. He could put you out at any time. He could, has that crazy knockout power. John Jones, he hasn't really faced that guy. I guess.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. And for one, you just said you're not really the biggest John Jones fan. Yeah. Well, shame on you. Shame on you, because John Jones is probably the greatest fighter to step foot in the octagon, and listen, he drives me crazy. I'll say that on his fucking Instagram and all this, listen, I'm not a religious person. I'm not. If you are, God bless you and all the best to you and good for you, but respect my beliefs as well. I'm not a religious person, but he throws the religious thing, the Jesus thing, the God thing down your throats. He's singing on Instagram.
And it's also bullshit too. It's not, it's
also bullshit, and he's trying to come across as the good guy. But that's not why I look at John Jones. That's not why I go to his Instagram. That's not why I tune into his fights. I tune into his fights to watch him fight. And when you watch John Jones fight, you're seeing a thing of beauty. You're seeing a guy do things and be so creative that you don't see. You see a guy going forward and fighting people at their own game. I mean, when he fought Glover Teixeira, everybody said, Jones just needs to use his reach advantage. Stay away from Glover because Glover likes to fight on the inside. Fucking Jones went forward, pushed him up against the fence and fought him like he was fighting in a phone booth. Fought him at his own game and beat him at his own game. The closest fight Jones ever had to get him beat was against Gustafsson. And I know for a fact that Jones didn't even train for that fight, and it was still an amazing fight. Yeah. So,
but none of these guys have that.
Saying you're not a fan.
Well,
I mean, listen, you don't have to like the person, but admire what you see in the octagon.
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't say that I don't admire what I see, and I do feel like as a fan, we come into this and we watch it. I'm not a sports guy. I'm not like this guy who I'm like, I didn't watch football or baseball or hockey, anything when I grew up. I literally was a fan of like the theatrics. I was a pro wrestling fan growing up. I was into music and heavy metal music. So when I came into the UFC, really as a fan, I came into it as like, oh shit, this is like real pro wrestling when I was a kid, So, to be honest with you, when I become a fan of somebody, obviously they have to be a great fighter. I'm not,
sure.
Nobody's a huge fan of a guy who's on the undercard and hasn't popped yet and realized his potential yet. Obviously, but it's the other things.
Fair enough, smart ass. Yeah. Continue.
But it's the truth. It's the other things that turn you into real hardcore fans, and it's undeniable that John Jones is an unbelievable fighter, but in a weird way, because I don't like his personality and I feel like he kind of comes off as a phony, it makes it very exciting to kind of watch him and kind of root for him to lose. You know what I'm saying? So it's not... I am a fan. It's this puzzle, and I want guys, something like Johnson, who I'm a huge fan of Anthony Johnson, I want him to figure out that puzzle, and I want him to put him out. I'm going to be on the edge of my seat the whole time watching him fight. And it's only because Jones is that good. If Jones wasn't that good, I wouldn't even give a shit.
But that's the whole thing about, being a star. or being somebody that people give a shit about. Like you just said, you're rooting for him to lose. You want to see him get beat. You want to see if a guy's going to go out there and beat him. And that equates money. That equates being a star. Now, of course, Jones has done. I mean, look at Conor McGregor. Perfect example. Myself, to a certain extent.
Yes.
As long as you walk out there, and there's emotion. If people are cheering or they're booing, whatever it is, the last thing you want is to walk out there and people are doing a fucking polite golf clap.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, this guy. All right, cool. Oh, yeah, well, best of luck.
And there's a lot of great fighters.
I want people to scream, I hate you, or, I want them to cheer. So he's doing something right, but I tell you, it is completely, by accident. I don't think he meant to run that lady over and, get busted and get stripped of his belt and all that good stuff.
Imagine he did.
Pretty sure that wasn't part of his master plan, but if it was, the guy's a genius.
Right. Imagine he's like the ultimate troll. Like he's actually trying to hit pregnant women.
Yeah, exactly. He planned that with great precision.
But we saw a lot. We've seen a lot of great fighters that weren't that exciting, both in and out of the cage, but they kept on winning. And then eventually the UFC was like, dude, we can't keep promoting you. Jake Shields, Yushin Okami,
Benson Henderson.
Yeah, Benson Henderson. Who was it that lost against GSP? They made that documentary about John Fitch, who I really liked too.
Good one.
But these guys, they were just, they're almost like middle of the road. You're like, they keep on winning 10, 12, 13 wins in a row, and nobody really cared. Nobody wanted to see Yushin Okami as the champion. Nobody wanted to see John Fitch as the champion. But also, nobody really wanted to see those guys lose either. They weren't really evoking any sort of emotion from the fans.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's not just that. The reason they weren't evoking emotion from the fans was because stylistically, the way that they fight, they don't necessarily provide excitement. They're all fantastic fighters. Everyone you just mentioned there of a very, very high skill level, but as they're not necessarily outspoken. I'm not saying they're boring people, but they're, compared to some of the louder guys, they're kind of introverted, and the way they fight, maybe they're very grappling orientated or whatever. So, people aren't going crazy to watch them fight. As you say, most of them very, very dominant. So therefore they win their fights, they continue to win, they renegotiate, they continue to win, they renegotiate. So they're almost a victim of their own success because they're winning fights so much, they can negotiate and get a really good deal. So these guys are expensive to the UFC because they keep winning, but yet they're not selling tickets or pay-per-views because they don't have an exciting style. So therefore, after a while, the UFC say, well, fuck these guys because, when I pay this guy, I have to pay him a shit ton of money because he keeps winning, but he's not selling pay-per-views. So, as I said, they become a victim of your own success in some ways.
Yeah, and it's so funny because you mentioned that. Not only that, these guys do have I really don't want to knock their style, but it really is kind of the lay and pray style. All the guys that I had just mentioned, they get you down, they grind you out a little bit. It's not super exciting to the fans, but then you watch them start beating these really exciting young prospects that like the UFC is like, well, wait a minute, there's more value. I remember the one example I'm thinking of is when John Fitch beat Eric Silva. Eric Silva was that was a guy who was like, he's good looking, crazy, super exciting style, Brazilian, and then John Fitch just comes and, just kills him, kills all that momentum. I don't remember if he was undefeated, but he had a really, really great record at the time. I remember he was like, they wanted him to beat John Fitch. They really did not like John Fitch in the UFC. And he just came out and fucking did it. And the second those guys...
Yeah, but that was because John Fitch back in the day was talking a lot of shit. He was talking about UFC contracts. He was...
video game.
He wouldn't sign the video game deal and all. There was a lot of things. And of course, on top of that, as you said, he had a kind of a lay and pray style. And whilst that's very effective, and trust me, it's harder to do than what it looks like, to take somebody down and lie on top of them and hold them down and use jiu-jitsu and use wrestling. That takes years and years and years to learn how to be able to do that and to do that against a trained opponent. Of course he's looking for a finish. They're always looking for a finish. They get called lay and pray. That isn't their plan. The plan is to take them down. But the problem is people are trying to get back up, so they stop taking risks. All these people, as I said, they have that lay and pray style, and that doesn't equate to selling tickets, So, it's that's why the UFC let them go, and that's why they go fight for other organizations.
Yeah, and kill it. I mean, look, a guy like Ben Askren, I don't even know if you're super familiar with his stuff.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable fighter, but it's like there's no way. The UFC's like, dude, we're going to bring this guy in to not be exciting. And he also trashes Dana, like, publicly. It's like, dude, he just kind of played his cards wrong. Because is he still undefeated?
I believe so, yeah, without looking him up right now. Yeah, I think Ben Askren is undefeated, and he is a guy that is outspoken. And he was he the Bellator champion? I think he took the Bellator champion down and it was like every round was almost a 10-8 and he beat the crap out of him, and he was like speaking to the camera and cursing off the guy's corner in between and this and that. But it's that lay and pray style that people don't get invested in. It's like Friday. There was the big Bellator fight, King Mo versus Rampage. And, Rampage for, whatever he's at these days in his life. I mean, he came into the octagon at 253 pounds. Sorry, he weighed in at 253 pounds. He brings excitement. That's the style. That's the way he fights. He swings. But King Mo, a smart game plan, wasn't having any of that. And he wanted to push him up against the fence and get the takedown. And that had all the makings to be an exciting fight. The fight sucked. The fight was boring as hell. The only exciting part was when Rampage connected with a hook in the second round and kind of wobbled Mo a little bit. But it goes back to what we were just saying. Whilst it's an effective way of fighting, these days, and as we all know, and there's mixed martial arts, certainly the UFC is kind of coming under some backlash for it, but there is an entertainment aspect to it all. You got to be entertaining. You want to entertain the people. If you've got 20,000 people sitting in an arena, you got to entertain them, and millions of people watching at home. You can't just take someone down and lie on top of them. People are tuning in. The parting ways with the hard-earned money to fight. Simple as that. They want to see a fight. They want to see skill. They want to see martial arts. They want to see a mixture. Of course they do. And I respect jiu-jitsu. I've done jiu-jitsu my entire life. But you have to put you have to put your neck on the line a little bit. You got to go for it. You got to try and get the finish. You got to be willing to stand and trade and go for it. Land a few shots and then get the takedown. Not just desperately shoot from the other side of the octagon and hang on to somebody's leg. Nobody wants to see that.